played ice hockey when I was a kid, and a teammate's dad, actually on the way to like a game we were playing or something, played me Bad Religion's American Jesus. I was like totally blown away and taken by this like rougher around the edges sort of thing that I had now just discovered. So yeah, that early fascination with punk rock, then of course, you know, I learned about the Warped Tour, and when I was 12 or 13, I went to my first Warped Tour. It would have been the summer that I was 12 years old. And it was funny because I actually got to see a drum set that was hugely influential to me. My friend Brandon Steinecker, founding member of The Used, I saw him playing at Warped Tour 2003 with this kit that he had set on fire and spray painted, and it was like hugely just like artistically, it resonated with me. It looked different than all the other drum sets I had seen. That just like open-mindedness or just like alternative ways of just expressing yourself and doing things seemed to really resonate with me. I went up to SJC and was just like, if you could set aside a bunch of just bare shells, these are the dimensions I'd like to play with, I'm just gonna come and spend a couple days and just paint these drums. And like, I think they had a magazine lying around that had like pictures of Audrey Hepburn that I then like glued up to the top here and made some like collage-y sort of details and whatever. For different applications, like whether in the context of Against Me or Suicidal Tendencies or with Slipknot, like there are different tools, and all these things are just, you know, they're tools and you just kind of use them to do your thing. My rule of thumb is always like, whatever project it is, I want to have a kit where I'm using everything in front of me for every song. And if I can't justify having, you know, another rack tom or another crash cymbal or a whatever, you know, whatever the piece may be, I get rid of it. You know, I started out playing a kit of this size with one rack tom and one floor tom, one kick drum. I enjoy it. You know, there is an element of this that feels like home to me, you know, and as much as other bigger drum sets, you know, feel like home and you adjust to that sort of playing environment, the simplicity of this is always something that I've really enjoyed, and just kind of like going wild and doing my thing on a kit this size is, you know, it's what the music sort of requires. It doesn't need much else. It's like a lot of things that Bruce and the band do, they keep things in the family. You know, today, you know, Jake Clemens, Clarence Clemens' nephew, has been the saxophone player for many years now. I love that aspect of like keeping things within our family, our unit in a way. So when this whole thing happened where my dad had his schedule busy with the Conan show, transitioning from the late night show to the Tonight Show, there was a tour scheduled at the same time, and he had to be in two places at once. So Steve Van Zandt, my uncle Steve had come to see my high school band play to like virtually nobody at a bar in New York. And it was his suggestion, like, what about Max's kid? And they had invited me to at least just play a song at soundcheck. Played a song with the band at soundcheck, and at Bruce's suggestion, he was like, that felt pretty good. Why don't you play that during the show tonight? That night, I'm waiting, you know, 3.5 hours through their entire concert, getting ready to, you know, just sit in for one song. But I'm like so nervous. I was 17 years old, you know, but this was like a moment that once I get through this, like I never have to do it again. I can just hang my hat on having done it, and that'll be that. I think in Bruce's mind and Steve's mind, it was like, okay, well, he can play one song. Maybe he can learn a couple hundred others, and like, we'll see how this works. I was integrated where I would play a couple songs at a time, you know, the last 2 songs or the last 4 songs, the whole 6-song encore or whatever. But then, of course, there came a time when the Tonight Show started and we were on tour that I would be playing these full shows. And that was the whole idea that we were like building to over the course of, you know, better half of a year or so. And so I knew I would have to have my own drums. And so we came up with this drum set. And the way that I had kind of looked at it, you know, being a fan of all the drummers that I had admired through the early 2000s and mid 2000s, I think like many people, like I was always enamored with like these really long kick drums. You know, we're watching our hero like Travis Barker or, you know, Aaron Gillespie or these guys like playing these like wild looking, you know, long kick drums. I was like super stoked to have the opportunity to be like, I want to make like a long kick drum, you know, like those guys. So we made this, and it was like, it sounds super punishing, and like up on that stage, it was like helping deliver in ways that I didn't think about it at the time, but I wanted it to not look out of place. I didn't want to have some kind of big double bass drum set and go crazy with it. So this was a kit that really helped me as a tool in that setting feel like I was integrating myself without betraying or disrespecting or coming in too hot with a whole different vibe or something, paying true homage to what is already existing, and I'm just kind of coming in doing my thing with it. All the music that I've really ever played has always, the intent is to be like an endurance kind of thing, and to challenge myself with endurance and stuff. No matter what size kit you're playing, I always want the same kind of visceral live experience, whether that's on a kit as big as this or a kit that's smaller. The exhaustive nature of playing heavy metal, punk rock, hardcore, whatever, it all kind of feels the same to me, no matter what drum set I'm playing. But it is about the color palette in a way. In my earlier work with Slipknot, I was getting used to, the sort of like the flow of the set, and I had more things, and just kind of, I had a marching snare drum and a big gong drum and other cymbals and this and that. But I would notice, like, you know what? I only hit that thing once in a show. If there was something that I didn't use for every song in a particular set, I would get rid of it. So what I was left with was this. This being the fourth kit or so that I had used with Slipknot. I designed this to reflect what I had recorded our album We Are Not Your Kind with. So, I had a record behind me now, 200 shows or something. I knew very well what I needed to do this. And so coming back to the table to make a kit like this, I knew how I wanted to be visually. I wanted to be more expressive and collaborate with my good friend Thomas Hooper to feature his artwork on the shells, to go with this kind of like bringing the old school into the new. What would it be like if Ringo Starr was playing in this band? That's why I created this kit the way that we did, with the pretty oyster inlay and stuff, the T-rod, tension rods that we use. It's all very specific to give a nod to just like drums from way back when, but with a modern application and a modern take on it. This is different than a three-piece kit or a four-piece kit. It's basically two of those put together. So whether it was in the studio, I was experimenting, figuring out what are the right things for certain songs or whatever. It's gonna need 3 rack toms. It's gonna need 2 floor toms. I like the tick-tock nature of 2 bass drums when it comes to active double bass playing, rather than playing double pedal on one single bass drum. I like that you'll have 2 beaters hitting in the center of each drum. I just like the sound of that and the feel of that a little bit better, and it looks cool having 2 kick drums.